A lot of people think that breathwork is healing trauma, but it's not. Breathwork can help us connect to our internal state and even connect us to emotions that are buried. But somatic therapy, like somatic experiencing, understands trauma at a much more nuanced level and changes patterns at a much more deeper nervous system level. But I'm also not here to poo-poo breathwork. Yes, I just said poo-poo. I have used both breathwork and breathing practices in parts of my healing journey effectively. So, instead of telling you which one is better, in this video, I'll explain how somatic experiences uses the breath differently and how you can practice breathwork more safely so that you can make an informed decision at the end of when and whether you want to use breathwork. I'm Naomi Galinsky, and welcome to this channel. I'm a somatic experiencing practitioner and therapist. And this channel is here to help you understand your human experience through the lens of trauma, nervous system, inner child work, and transgenerational patterns. I help high-functioning women who are tired of holding it all together reconnect with their body so that they can experience ease and joy again and have the energy to live the life that they want. Let's dive into today's topic. In this video, I will cover why people confuse breathwork and somatic experiencing, what breathwork does well, where breathwork can go wrong, why somatic experiencing is a better tool for trauma healing, and how the two can work together. Why people confuse breathwork, and I should say also somatic work and healing trauma. Breathwork and somatic experiencing or somatic practices both help us connect to our internal state. And they both shift our physiological and our energetic state. But they do it differently. Breathwork, you use the changing of the breathing pattern to shift the state, whereas somatic experiencing observes the breath to tell us what the nervous system state of that person is. And it's not that either is better, right, or wrong. It's that they have different intentions and different purposes going in. And for some people, breathwork might be healing trauma, which is amazing if that's the case. But there are so many different types of trauma, and breathwork alone is not enough of a tool to cover the wide ranges of trauma that is out there, the spectrum of. What breathwork does well? For people that are living in their head, it can be a beautiful tool to help them access the internal state, access their body. It can support emotional release. It can support energy flow. For example, in tantric practices, I used breathwork to move the energy through my body. I've also used breathwork to help me release emotions while I was going through a tough time. Breathwork can also help you open up the diaphragm and soften it so that you can breathe in more oxygen. And when there's more oxygen in the body, you have more life force energy. And I'm sure there's so many more benefits to breathwork and breathing and doing breathing practices. And my understanding is there's so many different types of breathworks out there as well. And where breathwork can go wrong is when we don't have the capacity to be with our internal state. So if we haven't felt our body, don't know how to sense it, and there's a lot of trauma stored in there, and then breathwork accesses that trauma, and it all bubbles up at the same time, and you don't have capacity to hold that amount of fear, anger, sadness, grief, anxiety, whatever is bubbling up, then it can overwhelm your system. Then you're past your window of tolerance. And you might end up crying uncontrollably or shaking uncontrollably. Or you might just check out, shut down, fall asleep, best case, falling asleep, and nothing happens. And if a practitioner, the one that's leading the breathwork, is not trauma-informed, that can leave you in a pretty scary state. And some practitioners encourage the shouting and the release of emotional expression in a breathwork group. And that in itself can also be overwhelming to a very sensitive nervous system when someone next to you is shouting and letting out anger, and that's just too much for you. Why is SE a better tool for trauma healing? Somatic experiencing, how that's different is we don't control the breath. We use the breath as a tool to see where the nervous system is at. So if there's a bracing, there's a really good reason why there's a bracing in the upper body. That means that there is still survival energy locked up in the body. And as we do somatic work, and as the body has more capacity to process and move through the trauma, the breath naturally starts to open up, to deepen. So more of the body starts to breathe. And there's an ease and a softness to the breath. And that's what we want to see. Because when that naturally starts to happen, we know that the body is starting to experience, the nervous system is starting to experience internal safety naturally. And we trust the body's wisdom to know how to process, how to move through the trauma when it has a safe containment from the outside and it is safe enough to move through it. So instead of using the breath to move through trauma, move through emotions, in which case we sometimes might even prevent the body from completing the natural trauma response, we allow the trembling, the shaking, the heat, the crying. What else can happen? There can be like tingling of energy moving through your body. We allow that to happen and then spontaneously wait for the body to spontaneously start to have that deep breath, which is a sign for a somatic experiencing practitioner that the nervous system is starting to settle after this process. And how can the two work together? As I said, I've done breathwork before and breathing practices, and they've been really useful for me. It helped me connect to my internal state. It helped me move awareness into different parts of my body. However, breathwork in itself is not enough. So a good breathwork practitioner will combine it with, for example, internal family systems, with somatic experiencing, with some other healing, trauma healing modalities. And when I was going through one of my breakups, and it was deeply painful while I was sorting my stuff and packing and moving out, that took a few weeks while I was already broken up. That was a really hard place for me to be. I was doing therapy as well during that transition period, as well as breath work to support the emotional pain that I was feeling and let it also move through my body. And the second thing that I would like to highlight is it's oftentimes not just the modality in itself, like breath work is this good or bad, somatic experiencing is that good or bad. It's also the practitioner themselves. Are they trauma informed or are they a trauma therapist? And are they doing the work themselves to be embodied and living and breathing this healing work? Because if they're not, then they're not transmitting the healing through their embodiment. And you always want to make sure that you resonate, that you feel a level of comfort and safety in the presence of the practitioner. Otherwise, you can bet that your nervous system won't feel safe to drop in and release. In summary, breathwork and somatic experiencing or somatic therapy both help you access your body, but in different ways. Breathwork can open the doors to your internal world, to your emotions, but somatic experiencing doesn't just open the door, but takes you through and walks you through to the other side of the trauma healing. If this video resonated with you, please subscribe or like. This really helps other people reach this content. And if you have an opinion on breathwork or an experience that you would like to share, please leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. And if you feel called to work further with me, check out the resources in the caption.